So Annie, will you tell me about why you were appointed to the board by Governor Rockefeller? What it was, what year it was?
Okay. While I was appointed to the board, I had a very good background with the Republican Party. When Rockefeller was elected to the state of Arkansas, we didn't have a two-party system. We had a one-party system. And we had people there that were Democrats as well as Republicans, but the state had to be organized in order to have people to vote the way they wanted to vote. So there were a group of people. One was headed by a man named Baxter Walter. He set up a group of citizens to meet at his place of business in Helena, Arkansas. And there we organized a Phillips County support system. After organizing a support system, we had people from the Republican Party in Little Rock to come down and organize us to be a Republican committee. And remember I said we were just a Democratic state. Therefore, we were selected by this committee to come to Little Rock and organize a Republican committee. And I'm quite sure Governor Rockefeller looked at that, and out of that, he selected 4 or 5 blacks to represent the state committee. And thereby, we went around to every county and asked the question, if you had a Republican committee, would you join it? And that took a lot of time, took a lot of effort, and a lot of patience. Some of the guys, I was the only lady on that board, and some of the guys got mad, when people started talking about, I don't want to be a so-and-so Democrat, I don't want to be a Republican, but I just want to stay like I am. Some of the people in white communities asked, what do you people want with us? And we had to talk with them out of the window of the car. And I'm happy to say I was never turned down by a family in Arkansas, but I really had to do some swift talking. And when I got through, they said, come back again, Miss Annie. I don't know why people chose to call me Miss Annie, but all through Sharice's book, she says, Miss Annie, out of that committee, we brought back the names of the people that said that they would vote if they had a two-party system. It was organized at the Republican headquarters in Little Rock, a Republican committee. I'm from Phillips County, heavily dominated by poor blacks and as well as poor whites. But at that time, I think we had more blacks than we had whites. Governor Rockefeller called me and asked if he appointed me to, well, at that time, it was a welfare committee. Would I serve? I came back home and talked it over with my family, and they said, yes, we need a two-party state. And therefore, I was called to the rock, have the pictures to support it, was organized to be with the Democratic Central Welfare Committee. And the day that I went, at that time, I don't know whether it's still there or not, but at that time, welfare committee, welfare board met on the Capitol grounds. At the day that I was introduced, the media was there, farmers was there, and some of everybody. And when I got out of the car, I saw rifles, I saw dogs, and some of everything. Yes, I did have a fear that when I lived to get out of there, all that dog barking and all those things. But I said I was going to be like Ruth and Esther in the Bible. I was going to hold my head up and walk in. Nothing but white men sitting around like this, and everybody had a seat as well as a mic in front of them to speak into. I introduced myself. At that time, I was only an Zachary. Now, my first husband was Cleve Zachary. Okay, and I introduced myself as Annie Ruth Zachary. And I had heard that I was going to be called Blackfish or Black Other or whatever. And it told me I got it over to the white man that was sitting there. I will respect you if you don't respect me. Well, what do you want us to call you? Miss, no. You could call me Aunt Jemima if you want to. Because I'm here to represent people. And I'm not here to make friends. But if you let me, when I leave, you will remember me as being Annie, not Miss Annie. I told Miss and Mrs. don't mean anything to me in front of your name. You got to live it. And after that day, I started making friends. And at first, I had certain issues in my county as well as some of the problems within Arkansas. And I went after segregation, and I went after how it was different in the welfare office in Helena. And there were people on welfare that didn't even know that we had a welfare office in Little Rock. When we started getting together and selecting what dates we would meet on, they asked me what date could I come in, and I told them I was off the farm, and I would like to set a date on the end of the week because I had people that were working for me and I had to pay them off at the end of the month. And so we selected, I believe, the first Friday or the first Saturday to come in once or twice a month as the issues came up to the board. At first, when I offered plans that bothered me as well as bothered some of the citizens in Phillips County, they told me, well, I don't know whether these Democrats on the board, Rockefeller had about 4 people on the board that represented the Republican Party. And they told me, you won't get even a second to a motion this afternoon. And to my surprise, every motion that I put through, I had a second and a third. Sometimes everybody said, we're going to join you, Miss Ann, we're going to stay up the show. Now understand me, Chairman Stokes was there, you had Republicans there, and Democrats. I have a whole library of books that I made up of being the first one. And I made friends. And from that day on, all of the trucks with the rifles in it, trucks with the, I don't know what kind of dogs they were barking. I didn't see that anymore. I'm quite sure people have their own idea on me being there and being a woman from Phillips County, predominantly black county, and I guess they thought it was going to be a fight or whatever. I met with peace, and I started asking questions. Do you open up? No, we don't open up, Annie. You read the medicine come. I said, well, I believe it open up. I sing pretty good. I will give you all a few notes that I can sing. And he said, well, you sing and pray and open up to meet Miss Annie. And that was no. They hadn't been doing that. And they said, well, we're going to remember you. And from that day to this day, practically any meeting that I'm in, we open up with a prayer and a song. It can be patriotic, it can be Amazing Grace, or it can be something that you like. So, I don't know how many minutes you're going to give me, but I would like to sing for you the Lord's Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the
What year did you go to the state capitol the first time?
year.
Yes.
We talk about the welfare.
The first board, yeah, the first,
Okay. I'm looking here in this book, 1969.
1969. So the fact that you're a woman and the fact that you're a black woman kind of makes that doubly hard, doesn't it? It made it doubly hard to walk into that meeting. It's both a woman, because women barely have.
And I'm hearing you, but I'm not making out what you're talking about. You want to come closer to me?
Well, I'm trying not to be in the video. You can cut this part out. So in 1969, your women's lib is just a couple of years old. You're African American, that segregation, I mean, that's just recently been abolished. I think 1967. So that made you walking into that meeting, I think, harder than maybe what most of us realize how difficult. Because it was a different time.
It was a different time. And I had just came from the National Home Demonstration Club. I And both of those clubs were organized into one club. And when we organized it, I was chairperson of the Black Home Demonstration Club, moved over to be one club. And at that club, almost each county that had a representative from their home demonstration clubs met at the home demonstration building in Little Rock. And there we organized into one club. And therefore I came out of that club into the welfare department. At that club, we had white women and black women sitting down together and eating together and organizing one particular organization, the organization of Home Demonstration Club Women. And I was appointed vice chairperson. And we had to they asked us for a tally number. And guess what I said? Shoe fly pie and apple cane dollar. That was a song that was from Cooks. And black people didn't know anything about apple plain dollar. But I liked Doris Day. And guess what? I sang Shoe Fly Pie, and I got a standing ovation. And I'll give you a little tune of it after a while.
Okay, I have my second question, which is how you became involved in the creation of Teacher Appreciation.
How I became involved in what? Okay.
How you?
You must remember now, I was 90 years old the other day, but I don't have memory.
Well, it's hard to hear in this room anyways, because it's
Acoustics are not
yeah.
good.
So how did you get involved in Teacher Appreciation Day?
Okay.
And how it started?
How it started.
Yeah,
You got a book there
I'm moving
that
this.
gives you every history. All the history is out.
Do you want me to hand it to you?
That book in there, yes ma'am. You got a history there that tells you about Maddie Mae White Woodridge. She founded National Teachers Day in 1944. And in my town and in my church and in my county was always involved in home demonstration clubs, 4-H clubs, and all of those things. And so she called me one day and asked me why didn't I come to the home demonstration club meetings. And I told her that I would like to, but I had so much going, trying to form and had a little boy and a little fellow out there, and she said, well, you know what? I never had a daughter. And to me, I would love to call you my daughter. And so if you would come to one of my meetings, I would like to look for the people to know that I have found a person that I would like to call my daughter. And I'm going to ask you, would you join me? All of that is in this history right here. And I have a book where the Maddie Mae Woodridge people honored me for 30 years of service dedicated to the Maddie Mae White Woodridge Association. From that, I arrived. Now, I had several times to go to Washington to represent the Republican Party. And at those tables, a lot of those tables, I was the only black there, as a whole nation. Home Demonstration Club, Winthrop Rockefeller Club, and out of the Winthrop Rockefeller Club, you can see how many times that the Republicans statewide nominated me to represent people, not just black. So I have quite a grand history of it being involved with blacks as well as whites, and being the only woman. And so I was named Woman of the Year by the Black Women Association, Black Federated Women of Arkansas. And they are nationally known by the AKAs.
What your impression was of the interview, if you remember any particular questions they asked you or about the conversation, and sort of what your thoughts were on that interview process.
Well, one of them was my treatment of an all-white board. And I had them to understand that once I arrived there, I don't know whether I was a threat to them or what, but I became friends to them when it was all over. And I was told that I wouldn't get a second to a motion. I wound up putting motions through. I wound up being a delegate to the National Republican Convention in Miami, Florida. And there I put on the state board the sickle cell of help for blacks. And at that time, it was just said that only blacks had sickle cell, but later on, for the history that came behind that, we found out that there were some whites too, because it's a blood thing. So I have had grand experience in walking into places where there was only one black, only one woman, but I enjoyed being that, and I think, I don't know how many of you have interviewed Dr. Sharice Gomes? Okay, well, I was named guinea pig, and I told them that however you called me, you could call me a guinea pig because I was there, and I was the first woman, first black, first Republican. And I gained the respect of everybody that I went to. If there was a sorehead there that didn't care to listen to black people, and I'm on the National Literary Council too. I speak well. I spoke at the National Republican Women Foundation, where I was interviewed and introduced by Art Linkletter. And at that time, I was running for state senate. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what else would you like to know?
All right.
And I have a picture where I'm standing beside Mrs. Nixon, Mrs. Agnew, and I'm singing the national anthem
Wow, I'm sure that
at
was
the
a wonderful
Republican
sight.
Convention. Okay.
That's amazing. So this project happened in 1976, and I was wondering if there were any particular events in your life, any accomplishments post 1976 that you would want to talk about.
I ran for state senate, and the man that I ran against was named, he was already held that seat. His name was Jolie Anderson. And the Republican Party paid my filing fee. I went in every county in Phillips County and spoke. Some were all black, some were all white, some were mixed. And I venture to say some were Christians and some were not. But I guarantee you, one meeting, and they would come back and ask me to come back and speak. And I always said, you are what you represent. So I never came on to them as I am this black woman and all of those things. I am just Annie Fight, a child of the King. Okay. And I advised black women who were farming with me and who was having babies without a doctor. They had midwives, and I advised them to stay in school. I advised them to, when you go to the field to work, try to be the best cotton picker you ever seen. Try to pick more cotton than anybody. We picked the cotton and sold the cotton at Jen's. And we had sharecroppers. And at that time, when I was first getting started, my husband had 27 mules and 26 farm families. And we had a house for all of those families. And we had home demonstration clubs. We had women that had children. So I advised them to ask their daughters and their sons to become involved in 4-H club, home demonstration clubs, and we had people that from the state home demonstration clubs to come out, and they would have projects for the boys and the girls. Raising chickens, raising hogs, raising cows, raising turkeys. And so some of those guys came to visit me yesterday. And I wish I had that $100 bill to show you today. He walked in, he said, "You were the first person that made me feel that I was somebody. You taught me how to speak. You taught me how to sit erect. You told me how to stand erect." And he said, "I know my first speech. And I came here today to say my first speech to you and to give you your gift of this." I thought it said $1. I have it in my purse. He gave me a $100 bill.
Wow.
And they spent in about a half a day. And we had recipes. And like I told you, we had cooking contests and all those things. And when they asked me what number that I wanted to have at the National Home Demonstration Club, I told them that I had more on the National Republican National Home Demonstration Club woman. And they said, "Well, what would be your talent today?" And I said, "Well, I had to try to reach the white woman because they weren't used to a black woman presiding." And I said, "Well, I believe I will sing Apple Plain Dollar." And the black woman said, "What in the world is she talking about?" Well, they were taught apple pie. Shoe fly pie and apple pain down and make your eyes fly high. You start to play how the shoe fly pie and apple pain down it. I never get enough of that wonderful stuff. Oh, mama, when you bake, mama, I won't want cake, mama, for my sake. Go to the oven and make some ever-loving shoe fly pie. I'm through.
That was beautiful.
And I won first prize. And I won the respect of all the white ladies. And then whenever we would come to a meeting, after I got through singing the Lord's Prayer, they wanted me to sing Shoe Fly Pie. And I gained the friendship of them, and I became, at that time, state secretary as well as state chairperson. So respect. Okay. Now what else you want to know?
Okay. I'll come close. So, the project that I researched was in the 1970s. What has your experience been being a black woman then and then a black woman now? Do you see similarities, differences in society and
I see
your
more
life?
involvement. I see more involvement. Yesterday, in the mail, I received a book from Dr. Cherise Branch Jones, and she's on the first page of this book. I don't know when it was published. Guess what? She dedicated the book to me. I wish I had brought it with me, but I didn't have any idea that she would go that far. But since meeting Dr. Jones, I have found out that she has been placed dean now at ASU. And that makes me know that black women are growing. We are growing. Okay, what else you want to know now?
Can I ask one question? Absolutely. So things have changed since the 70s,
Yes.
but do you still feel like black people face discrimination? Is there still more to be done, accomplished?
In some areas. In some areas, I think that we will always be discriminated. Because you got people, and wherever you have people, you're going to have discrimination. Hey, I say this, and I'm quite sure each of you know the Bible. There was discrimination in Adam and Eve's day because one son killed the other one, right? He was jealous of his brother. So we still have jealousy among people. And wherever you have people, you're going to have discrimination. You're going to have people with bad hearts until Jesus comes. And when he comes, he will settle it.
So what did you think last year when one of the most, one of the hardest things for me was when Breonna Taylor was killed. The police broke in her apartment. But because of that and because of George Floyd, there were lots of protests. And these were just black people protesting, but there were lots of Hispanics and whites as well. But how did you kind of see what was happening last year, or did you pay attention?
I feel that after the Civil Rights Bill was passed, the blacks have not taken on that responsibility like they should have. And following Dr. King, he opened the doors for a lot of blacks. And so a lot of blacks have not picked up on that. And we still have discrimination, and you're going to always have it. We still have people killing one another. You're going to always have that.
Do you feel like there's progress being made? Do you feel like young people are sort of saying we have to do better?
Young people, after they got into the schools with the whites and the blacks, there's still discrimination.
Yeah.
You have people that's gone out to build private schools. And you have the white kids over here haven't been taught anything about the blacks. But guess what? In my county, we have a teacher's day. We have a committee that puts materials out in art and lyric contests. And we put that material for the contests in the private schools as well as the public schools. And there, you will look in the back of this book and you will see where we have winners in the contests, where kids from the black schools as well as the private schools entered the contest. And guess what? I was sent out to the private schools to introduce myself to the headmasters. And when I drove up on the campus, white kids coming out to the car, helping me out of the car. I wasn't crippled at that time. I had the accident in '99 and broke both of my feet. And so at me introducing myself to the white schools, the headmaster would send the boys and the girls out to meet me, and they would just, hey, Miss Annie, I walked into the auditoriums of the white public schools, introduced myself to those kids, and when we had this right here, we had the attendance of whites as blacks coming out there to support their kids who were winners. And so we do have, in Phillips County, we are organized. And I'm not going to tell you that we still do not have segregation. You're going to always have segregation. You have people with little minds,
Yeah.
but
So-
we have grown.
Yeah. So is it a better world?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it's a better world. And you're going to always have a better world when you have Christians that's teaching their children that God loves all people. And when he comes, he's not going to come for one race. He's going to come for people that believe in Jesus Christ. And so it's going to be a lot of people that's going to be left behind simply because their minds are so small. And so you and I need to try to help make our children know that there are two sets of people. People that believe in Jesus Christ and people who do not believe in Jesus Christ. And when he comes and separates us, he's going to call for everybody to come up. And when he separates us, he's going to ask, there's some questions that he's going to ask. Did you do this? Did you do the other? When you get through asking those questions, and you can't answer yes sir to them, you know what he's going to say? Depart from me, I know you not. And that's when the world will be divided. So yes, I admire you ladies who have come, who called me in, and I thank my son and his wife for coming and supporting me. And from now on, I will always try to be a better person and to show more love and respect. And I have a little poem I would like to leave with you, ladies, for a better equation. Add love, subtract hate, multiply goodness, and divide truth from error, and you will have equation for love. And if I'm closing, there is a destiny that makes us brothers. None goes his way alone. All that we send into the lives of others comes back into our own.
Thank you so much for speaking and taking the time to answer some questions.